Welcome to Rebel Chaser. My name is Gail, and this is part 3 in the Spar versus Cook series, and this is a continuation of the trial. I didn't realize that, but Mom wanted the CPS worker in, so CPS worker's in and gets to speak. So I don't want to give it away. This is good. I'll let you guys watch.
Okay, we are on the record in the matter of Spar versus Cook. Both parties are present. I see Ms. Spar's mother is present, and witness that the court subpoenaed, Ms. Plum, is also present. So, folks, same rules as before. I'm going to mute your devices. I will give you a chance to speak in turn. Do not unmute your device unless I direct you to unmute it. If you violate that, I'm going to give you one warning. If you do it again, I'm kicking you out of the hearing and I'm going to finish it without you. Okay, Ms. Plum, would you raise your right hand, please? You do swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Please state your full name for the record.
Ashley Plum, Plumb.
And Ms. Plum, how are you employed?
I am a CPS investigator employed with the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
And could you give me briefly your educational background?
I have a bachelor's degree from Michigan State University, focusing on family and child community resources and services. I have nearly 15 years in the field of child and adolescence, and have been employed by MDHHS for 6 years.
In the course of your work as a CPS investigator, were you called upon to investigate the family that is before us today, Ms. Spar and Mr. Cook?
Yes, I was assigned two investigations with this family in my past career.
All right, and you were kind enough to forward your investigative reports for both investigations to the court. If I'm remembering correctly, is it correct that neither complaint was substantiated?
That is correct.
During the course of either investigation, did you discover any facts that would suggest that Mr. Cook is a danger to either one of his children?
No.
In the course of your investigation, did you, well, let me ask you before I do that, are you familiar with the term parental alienation?
Yes, I am.
That's part of your scholastic training in family and child issues?
Yes.
In either investigation, did you see any indication of possible parental alienation by either parent?
Through each investigation, although it wasn't my direct allegation or the direct assignment, through both investigations, there were situations where the girls were not visiting per the court ordered visitation, is what I understood. And each investigation, I believe, was for different reasons. The second investigation was originally due to COVID-19, so they were staying with their mother, which was originally agreed upon. And then the first investigation, I do not recall. I'd have to look back in my notes, but I do believe there was some withholding from court-ordered visitation.
During the course of each investigation, you had opportunity to interview both girls privately.
Yes, I did.
Did you see any indication in either investigation that someone was trying to influence the girls' reports to you?
The most recent investigation, I did interview both girls, and I would answer that question as my interview with the younger child, Chloe, was a bit different in the reference to she was speaking upon stories and incidents that she was not present for or that she was told that had happened. When asked how she knew those things, she would reference that her mom had told her those things, if that would answer your question.
Was that at all concerning to you?
Yes, it was.
Tell me why.
It was apparent that her recollection of things was not coming from her own recollection. It was coming from someone else, which she shared was her mother. It was almost as if she was speaking from someone else's perspective. She wasn't answering the questions like a young child would. She was answering the questions about things that were told to her, and she was telling me that her mom told her.
So, with respect to your most recent investigation, I remember reading that you had made a recommendation to the parents concerning counseling. Do you recall that?
Yes, I do.
What was your recommendation?
I was strongly encouraging that the mother follow up and get both girls, but specifically the older daughter, enrolled in counseling. That was also strongly encouraged from their primary care doctor, and that had been talked about with their family care, regular family care doctor as well. The older daughter, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
The older daughter was displaying more like anxiety issues relating to visitation, Carl, and it was important that she had the outlet to talk to somebody.
How was that recommendation for counseling received?
I actually made a referral to the healing place for both girls. And then that was when I closed out my investigation. So I made Miss Barr aware that I had made the referral, and I had made her aware that somebody would be calling her from the local resource, a healing place, to set up counseling. And that was when I closed my report. So I'm not sure. I don't have an answer to the follow-up on that. I apologize.
In either of your investigation, did you uncover any reason why these girls shouldn't be regularly visiting with their father?
No, there was no imminent risk or safety hazards identified at their father's home. What they did express was anxiety and emotional concerns that was recommended to discuss further through therapy. The concerns that I addressed with Mr. Koch was like the cracking of the toes and the way that he was engaging with his daughters. And I recommended that he not do those things anymore, because the girls expressed that they didn't like that. And that was something that they didn't enjoy when they were with him. So things like that were reviewed with him as far as safety and engagement with his daughters. And he was receptive to that.
Okay, Ms. Plum, I don't have any more questions for you, but I want to give each parent the opportunity to question you. So I'm going to unmute Ms. Spar. Ms. Spar, solely for the purpose of you asking Ms. Plum questions, not for the purpose of you giving testimony in response to anything she said. Okay?
I would
Do
like
you have
to.
any questions?
Yes, I have questions. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, we
Okay.
go ahead with your question.
Okay, the first thing that I would like to ask Mrs. Plum is, do you remember when you first came here and me and Isabel and Chloe were all talking with you, and I said to you that we have learned our lesson about not recording conversations and that it is important for us to record every single conversation that we have with someone that is involving this particular case, because we've found in the past that people say things that we didn't say, and they also try to minimize what was said. So we informed you that the conversation was going to be recorded. I recorded my conversation with you, and Isabel took it upon herself to record her conversation with you. So we do have
Ms.
those.
Spar,
I just
Ms.
want to,
Spar,
I'm going to ask
is there
her
a
some
question?
questions.
Is there
Yes,
a question in there
question.
somewhere?
Yep.
Please get to the
Do you
question.
remember telling Isabel after Isabel had a conversation with you, do you remember saying to Isabel, based on what I have heard as far as your involvement with your dad, without telling you to disobey a judge's order, I'm telling you for your safety, do not go with your dad again. Do you remember telling that to Isabel?
No, I typically don't tell children not fathers. Obviously, I want the court ordered to be followed. I cannot go against the court ordered parenting time. But if she feels like she doesn't want to visit, then that's your choice as a parent.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
What I would have said.
So I will refresh you on what you told us. You said, without telling you to disobey the judge's order, I'm telling you that for your safety, do not go with your father based on what you have told me. That's what you told Isabel. I have another question. Do you remember what Isabel said to you when you asked her if she felt that her father was a danger to her? Do you remember what she said to you?
No, I had to refresh in the report what her exact response was about a danger.
Okay. She said that she felt in great fear of her father and felt like he was on the verge of triggering at times, and that she felt like he was going to attack her. She felt like he puts her in a situation where she feels like
Let me stop you. Ms. Plum, do you remember any statement of that nature?
I remember the older child talking about her dad when he gets triggered, and I would try to get the girls to tell me what that meant, which meant like he puffs his chest, and none of that was touching the girls in any physical aggression type way. She was just describing his emotional state when he gets triggered.
Okay, I have more questions. Do you remember Isabel telling you that he puffs out his chest and pushes her backwards?
Puffs out his chest. I do remember that. I do not remember anybody saying that he pushes anybody backwards. No.
And when you were talking with Isabel, she was crying, and she said to you, "We feel like we have been swept under the rug. We feel like we've been sent to several different people, and nobody seems to want to help us." Do you remember what your response was to her?
Well, first, let me ask you, do you remember her saying that?
Yes, I do remember
I
her
can't
talking like
hear. Your
that
frozen.
and having those statements, which is why I recall talking to her about
Your
counseling.
Honor, you're frozen. We can't hear you.
The problem must be at your end.
Are you there? I do recall her saying that.
Hold on. I
I
want to make
can't
sure.
hear.
Looks like she's lost her connection somehow. Ms. Barr, can you hear me? Ms. Barr, can you hear me now?
I can hear. I
I
cannot
can hear. I cannot.
hear the question that you asked Mrs. Plum, though.
I asked her if she remembered hearing Isabel say those things, which I think is a necessarily prelude to what did you say in response. She said yes, she remembers Isabel saying those things. So now she can answer the next question. Does she remember what she told Isabel in response to that?
I do remember having a conversation with Isabel about counseling and having somebody for her to talk to about those things. And I remember letting both of them know, and the family. Chloe was present, but I'm talking as Miss Spar and the older child, that it is not, I am not able to violate a court order, and that I wasn't going to do that at that time. So that was the decision of Miss Spar. But I do remember talking to Isabel about counseling and somebody for her to talk to.
Okay, I just want to make it clear that, Ashley, you did say I can't tell you to
Ms.
not
Spar,
tell what judge.
Ms. Spar, I
Okay.
told you at the start, this is your opportunity to ask Ms. Plum questions.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify.
If you want later to give testimony in response to that, you will get a chance, but it's not that time.
Okay. When Isabel was talking with you, Miss Plum, did you feel that Isabel was sincere and what she was saying was coming from her?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, go ahead.
Yes, for Isabel directly.
Okay. And do you feel like Isabel had reason to be scared of her dad after everything she explained to you that had happened?
That was her own personal recollection of her own emotional feelings. So was telling me that was how she was feeling. My definition of scared
Okay.
is very different than hers.
Okay. But you did. Okay. And do you remember when I came back downstairs and we were talking together? Do you remember telling me that Isabel is extremely scared of her father and that she has emotional damage based on this fear? Do you remember telling me that?
That was part of our discussion for the importance of counseling. I would recollect that she was crying during our interview, and
Okay.
about the importance of getting her hooked up with counseling.
Okay, so you don't remember us talking to you about her counselor that she has been seeing now for 6 months? You don't remember us talking to you about the counselor that she sees every week?
To my knowledge, she was not in counseling at the time that I was at your house.
Yes, she was. She had been doing counseling since the beginning of school, and she also did counseling at the end.
Ms. Spar,
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Okay, my next question is, both girls explained to you about how Carl holds Chloe down as she is screaming and crying with tears, and he holds Chloe down and he pulls her toes and he will not let her up, and that this is very dangerous and painful for Chloe, and that you felt like that is definitely beyond the lines of appropriate behavior, and that this is you expressed that this is almost a form of torture. Do you remember that?
I have had very significant cases that directly result in torture. I do not remember saying the word torture about the cracking of the toes. I do recall saying that was inappropriate, and if the girls didn't want him to do that, telling each girl, tell him to stop, and then I would follow up with him about a conversation, telling him that wasn't appropriate, they didn't like that anymore, which I did. I do not recall
Okay.
the word.
Okay. Do you remember telling me that you felt that it was important for the girls to go to Shannon Louder's because she is able to work with a friend of the court, and that you would like to recommend to her that the girls be supervised while in the care of Carl? Do you remember telling us that?
I remember telling that Shannon Lauder is in my opinion, one of the best. And I remember telling you that I would make the referral. I do not recall saying anything about recommending supervised visits because that is not something that I do.
Okay. You said you can't do that, but okay, I'll switch to the next
Correct.
question. Do you feel that it is okay for Carl to be able to hold Chloe down to things such as pulling the toes or her hand or her wrist very hard? Do you feel that that's okay?
I don't feel like that's okay if the girls don't like that, and that's the conversation that I had with him.
Okay. Do you think any child would like their hand or their wrist to be turned to the point that is very, and then for it to be smacked? Do you feel that that's not?
The allegations in that investigation did not rise to the level of a physical per policy that the Children's Protective Services manual follows. I had
Okay.
a conversation with him about the inappropriateness if the girls did not like the way that he engaged with them, and that conversation was held with him, and I would take that as a safety plan moving forward.
Okay. Can Mrs. Plum, I would like for you to repeat what Isabel said to you on Friday, September 25th. Could you explain to me what she said happened that night, please?
Am I able to refer back to my report for this?
Of course you can, if that would
do whatever you.
I got the case on October 15th.
Okay. It was they had gone on September 20th. That's what this whole thing got, how all of this got started, is on September 25th. They went with their dad that Friday night, and there was a situation.
Okay, Ms. Barr. Ms.
Do you
Barr,
remember
I don't want you testifying. Apparently, Ms. Plum, her question was not what the child said to you on September 25th, but rather what the child told you happened on the 25th.
Yeah.
Okay, the first contact that I had with the children was on October 16th. And what was the specific question? I'm sorry.
Okay, so when you got here, we explained to you the situation where they had to go with their father. It was court ordered to start going on September 25th. It was a Friday. And when he showed up at the house, there was a situation that happened that Friday, and we spoke in great detail about what happened, all three of us. And then me and Chloe went upstairs. Can you tell me what Isabel's testimony was to you about that day?
I'm referring to my notes for this specific situation. I talked to Isabel about quite a bit. So let me refer to the specific situation about that specific situation. Is this when Chloe was crying, saying she didn't want to go? There were a lot of different situations about when she talked about when Carl showed up.
So you can't remember what the girls and I had said to you happened that Friday?
Oh, well, if you just speaking off the cuff, yes, that he pulled up, that they didn't want to go, that he walked down the street with Chloe. Is that the situation? Because there's a lot of situations that we talked about. And which time,
Okay,
yeah,
we talked about.
are you referencing?
Okay, it was when he showed up and
Right.
he had seen Isabel in 5 months. He had not seen Chloe in a certain amount of time, but he didn't even say hi to them. And they got into the car and he started cussing them out in front of me and my mom. And it was extremely loud, and that they pulled away and went down the street.
Let me stop you, Ms. Spar. I don't want to hear your description of what you
Okay.
saw. Ms.
I'm
Plum,
giving
you have
her.
to think of that.
It was what our whole reason for having.
Yes, and then he took them to his house. Isabel decided that she didn't want to stay. So because he said he was going to take Isabel to the grandma's, is my recollection. He took Isabel home, and you're shaking your head. So there's a lot of situations that were talked about. So this is not the right situation.
That is, but that's not what we told you happened. So obviously you don't remember at all what happened. That's fine.
I'm telling you what I remember.
Okay. I can see that you have not taken good enough notes to refer to that.
Okay. Do you want me to read from my report, from what I wrote in my report?
Well, I would hope that you would have referred to what the girls actually said to you happened.
I was just doing that.
Okay, that's not what was said in the interview.
Ms. Spar, I don't want you arguing with the witness, okay?
No, I'm not. I'm going to ask more questions.
No, that's exactly what you're doing, and I don't want you doing it. You can ask questions if you want. I don't want to hear arguments from you. Questions are what you can ask, and if you go afield of this much more, I'm just going to cut you off.
Okay. Can you give me an example of a situation where Chloe said that I told her something?
One situation that strikes my memory right away is when I was interviewing Chloe, she was referencing a time when she was telling me a story about how Carl pushed Miss Spar down the stairs, and asked her how she knew that, or if she was there, did she see that, asking clarifying questions. And she had told me that her mom told her that, which is how she knew that. And she wasn't, if I recall, she said she wasn't even born yet. So that was one of the stories. Do you want me to keep going about different stories?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. So that was one situation where she said that her mom had told her about something. I have to refer to my notes. I have had several investigations obviously going on since then. So
take your time, Ms. Plum.
Okay, so there was a time where Chloe was referencing when the family had a puppy, or Isabel had a puppy, and that the puppy was thrown in the snowbank. And I asked her if she had saw that, and how'd she knew that? This particular situation, she said that Isabel had told her that story. So that was another one that I was referencing that wasn't coming directly from Chloe's recollection. Another story was that Chloe talked about the family having a bunny, and her dad and Carl the bunny's head and kicking the bunny. I asked more clarifying questions about this situation, and if she saw it happen, how she knew these things, and that she had said that she wasn't born yet, and Isabel had told her that story. There was a story about the Miss Barr, and then just asking clarifying questions about words and definitions that Chloe was using, such as the words are evil or and just asking Chloe to elaborate on those words and what those words mean. And she did not know the definition of those words. That is pretty much summing up the interview with Chloe as far as things that are being told to her or her perception from other people.
Okay, Mrs. Plum, do you remember? Do you remember asking Chloe if she knew what the word evil was?
Yes.
Do you remember what her response was?
I'm going to get the exact I'm going to get the exact, here it was, because I don't want to say anything incorrect because I asked her a lot of questions. She had voluntarily said he is just evil. On her own, she freely said that. I asked her what the word evil meant, if she could define that or explain what she meant by evil. And then she described the situation about the puppy. That's when she went on to talk about the puppy.
So do you think she was giving you a story of an example of evil by telling you that story about the dog, even though she wasn't present, but she was using that as an example of evil?
She was not able to define what she meant by evil, and she just started into that story. So that's all I can reference.
Okay.
Situation.
So she could not give you the definition, but she gave you a story instead of what she thought was evil.
Well, she was telling a lot of stories during my interview, and the point where she would just talk, and then she would stop and say, well, I don't remember what I was going to say. So I can't answer that appropriately to say if she was or not, because she was talking quite a bit, quite quickly, and she would stop and say, I don't remember what I was going to say. So I'm not sure. I can't answer that appropriately.
Okay. And then the other one was, do you remember asking her if she knew what the definition of I believe what word was it that she used? Evil, and then the word dangerous. No, it wasn't. I don't know. I can't remember the second word. I have violent. Yes, it's right here. Okay. Violent.
Miss Barr, I want you to excuse your children from the room right now.
Do you remember asking her about the word and if she knew what that word meant?
I do. I do asking her if she knew what the word meant, which she did not know what that word meant. I do remember at the end of the interview when Miss Barr came downstairs and told us that she was listening to the interview, and she then told Chloe that she knows what being means, and was explaining to Chloe, Miss Barr was explaining to Chloe what it meant, and trying to get her to talk to CPS about what the word meant, which then Chloe, her definition was a referee, and talked about the sport of boxing.
Okay, so do you feel that when I asked her if she could give you an example of what the word meant, do you think that that was a good description of what is? is boxing.
If that was her definition of what it meant, was boxing. So that was her definition as a young child. That was her definition of violence.
Okay. So you do feel that she did understand what you were saying, but she was not able to describe to you a definition. Instead, she gave you an example.
That was after you came down and joined the interview.
Yes. Okay. And then as far as Isabel is concerned, while you were talking with Isabel, do you remember Isabel telling you that she felt like nothing was going to ever be done? That we've gone to several different people and talked to several different people. And do you remember Isabel telling you she was so afraid that you were also going to go to the judge and say to the judge that this is not a serious, dangerous situation for them to be in? Do you remember Isabel telling you this?
I remember Isabel telling me that nobody listens, and they've talked to several people. I do not recall telling me that I was going to go to the judge and say something specific. I'd have to look back and see if I document anything about that, but I don't remember her saying me specifically going to the judge and telling him or not telling him something.
Okay. Do you remember? Well, I was asking you if you remembered her telling you that she felt like this was not going to be taken serious once again, and that they were going to be put in danger again.
I know that I explained the process to Isabel, and she was present for almost all of the conversations that I had with you about my role, specifically being an investigator for a not with the friend of the court regarding recommendations or implementing change to parenting time. That's not my role. And I believe that she heard me when I was talking about that.
So you don't remember Isabel telling you specifically that she felt like this case was not going to be taken seriously, and she was scared that they were going to be put back into a dangerous situation with her father?
I remember Isabel saying that she felt that this case wasn't going to be taken seriously, and that they would have to go back with their dad.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And that she was scared because of what she had been through so far, that she was afraid you were going to turn your back on them like so many people had before. Do you remember having that conversation with her?
I remember having that conversation in the term that is not I cannot make a change to the parenting time. So I was going to collect all of her information and put it in my report, which I did.
Okay. You said that you felt like there was no danger in sending the children back with Mr. Cook. Could you please explain to me what no danger means?
In reference to this second investigation, regarding, there was a mention of the cracking of the toes and things that he had done while the girls were in his home. Verbally, there was no reference of physical abuse and the reference of putting his hands on the children. Neither of the girls disclosed any marks or bruises. There was discussion about purposely cracking the toes and the way that he engages with the children. That was addressed with him.
Okay. Do you remember the girls explaining to you that when he gets angry, he snaps and he starts cussing about an inch away from their faces at the top of his lungs? And that Isabel explained to you that when this happens, she is frozen with fear and cannot even move and is afraid he's going to attack her. Do you remember, Isabel, having that conversation with you?
Yes, I do remember her talking about her definition of what she describes him as being triggered. And those things were mentioned: getting close to the face, swearing, raising his voice, things like that. And those things were discussed with him as not being appropriate. Those things also do not meet criteria to open this CPS case that I investigated.
Okay. Ashley, do you remember you and I talking about Carl using injectables?
Yes, you mentioned that information to me.
Okay. And do you remember the article that I had referred to about the dangers of injectables and what happens over a progressive amount of time? Do you remember having that conversation?
Yes, I remember you sharing that information with me.
Okay. And do you believe that that's true?
That is a personal opinion that I don't have any. I'm not a medical practitioner or any kind of licensure to talk about injectables. I don't know enough other than the article and information that you personally shared about injectables. So I don't have an answer about my opinion on injectables.
So, have you ever had another client that you know of that they brought to your attention that the father or mother was using injectables?
Never.
Do you have any? You've never have any. So you're not real familiar with that situation before.
Never.
Okay. And Ashley, do you remember the girls when we came back down the first time you were here, and myself and Chloe and Isabel, and we were talking, and you made a promise to them? Do you remember what that promise was, Ashley?
Um,
Right before you left?
a promise?
Yes.
No, I don't recall making a promise.
Okay. Um, you don't remember making the promise that you're going to do everything in your power to help to keep them safe. Do you remember saying that to them?
I don't remember using the word promise because I don't feel that I would use that in my professional career. But I do remember talking about following up and making sure that I made sure that they were safe. And part of that was making a referral for an assessment with the healing place, because that is what they specialize in.
Okay, so you don't remember telling them that you were going to do everything that you could possibly do to try to keep them safe from Mr. Cook.
Safety is my job, and that was what I was going to do: assess the situation for safety and make sure that they were safe.
Okay. Do you feel, in your opinion, after talking with Isabel and Chloe, do you feel that they have reason to be scared of them based on what they told you?
Each child had a very different with me. Okay. The older child had a lot of emotional anxiety, pent up underlying issues that I personally, again, am not licensed to address, which is why a referral was made to the healing place. The
Okay.
expressed information that I did observe that may not have been coming directly from her own mind. So that's why they had very different interviews. But I'm not sure if what your question was, but they did express their own concern, and that was addressed in this investigation.
Okay. Do you remember telling me when I came back downstairs and we were talking together? Do you remember saying to me, I feel after talking to both children that they are very scared of the situation that they are being put in when they go with their father?
I remember talking to you about how Isabel was open with me and talked about her emotions and how she felt about her relationship with her father.
So you don't remember telling me that it was obvious to you that they are both very scared of going with their dad?
It was obvious to me that Isabel was emotionally charged, talking about visitation with her dad. It was obvious.
Okay.
And I remember telling you that I cannot violate a court order, that this will be addressed, that I would make a referral to the healing place, and things could move forward in that capacity.
Okay. Ashley, I know that you have a lot of cases, and I do I'm trying to stick to a question here, but this is, I'm trying to choose questions to refresh your memory based on what the kids and I said to you, and based on what you said to us. And it was a very clear question. Do you feel that my children are scared of their father?
I would have to say that Isabel expressed emotionally charged information. Her definition of being scared is very different than mine. I put her information in the report on her feelings. The information that I gathered from them was that their father had never hurt or harmed them in any criteria that would meet physical abuse in my investigation. We talked about the idea of mental injury because a lot of the information that I gathered from this investigation was emotional and underlying. It was not outward physical. And we talked about that openly, that it did not meet the criteria of physical.
Okay, Ashley, do you remember Chloe explaining to you that she had been down and her toes were pulled and it hurt very bad and she was eating while this was being done?
Yes.
Okay, do you remember Chloe telling you that he twists her wrist and her arm very hard and then hits her hard? Do you remember her telling you this?
I do not remember her saying her hard. No.
Okay. Do you remember Isabel explaining to you, watching Carl do these things to Chloe, and that she felt helpless because she could not interfere because she was afraid he would attack her?
I do not recall her saying that she was afraid he would attack her. I do believe she was expressing that she felt helpless about not being able to do anything when he was cracking Chloe's toes or holding her down.
So you don't remember Isabel telling you that she was extremely scared when he would Chloe and felt like she could not help because if she got involved, he would attack her. You don't remember Isabel saying that to you?
I just said that I do recall her telling me that story, that she would feel helpless, that she wouldn't be able to do anything.
Okay. Do you remember Isabel telling you that she felt like she had to go so that she could keep Chloe safe while she's there?
Yeah, she did say that.
Okay. Now, I want to ask you, Mrs. Plum, in your professional opinion, do you feel that there is a reason for my children to have, to go with, I don't know how to word this. Do you feel, in your professional opinion, that there is no reason whatsoever for my kids, for us to be alarmed or in fear of my children going with Mr. Cook? in your opinion, in your professional opinion, do you feel there's no reason, based on what my children have said and based on what I have said, that there's no reason for safety whatsoever?
Ms. Spar, I'm basing my testimony on 30 days involved with your family in October to November, most recently.
So
I remember asking you, you said that you thought he was going to kill the girls and harm them. And I remember asking you, what made you feel that way and why? And had he ever done anything like that before? And had he had any anything like that that made you feel like he was going to kill you or the girls? And you could not tell me any. You just said that you felt that way. So that's your personal feeling, Ms. Spar. And my professional feeling from this investigation is that I made a referral for the girls to get assessed for their mental health. That is very important. I could not open this case based on any disclosure that I got from the girls. No.
So you don't remember what my response was? Is what you're saying?
What?
When I asked you, when you said to me, why do you feel that he is going to harm? And that's not the question you asked me. You said to me, why do you feel he's going to show up and show the house? I don't remember ever saying that, and it wasn't in the interview. But do you remember what my response was to you when you asked me that question?
What question? About him showing up or harming the kids?
You said to me, why do you feel that Mr. Cook is going to show up in the house?
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember what my response was to you?
That he had showed up before?
My response was to you that he had showed up in the past,
mm-hmm.
and that he had acted unpredictable, and that he was not predictable at any given time, and that there were times that he has showed to me in the past, and that, I mean, you don't remember that response from me and what else I said? Okay.
Yes.
And that we were afraid that he was going to, do you remember me saying to you that I was afraid that he was a ticking time bomb and that he was going to eventually explode?
Yes, I remember you saying that.
Okay, you do remember me saying that. Do you remember Isabel saying that to you in your interview with her?
Generalized, yes, that she thought that he was going to explode, and hence when I would ask what that means, we already talked about that.
Okay. And did she feel like he was going to?
That's what she was expressing to me, but I was trying to get her to tell me more and give me more on what that means.
Do you remember what she said about what that meant?
That he would, I already talked about that he would puff his chest, yell, get in their face, things like that. That is
okay.
In my professional career, Miss Spar.
Okay. I understand that there's guidelines that you have to go by, and I understand what you had said to me as far as the aspect of you don't have the power to say that you could not determine whether or not this was a physical or a mental case, and that you were having a hard time with deciding which it was. Is this a physical or is this a mental? And that you needed to talk to your supervisor about that to see what she would have to say and how you were going to be able to place this case. That it was going to be one or the other, but you couldn't determine at the time whether it was going to be physical or mental.
Right.
Okay. So you are agreeing that we talked about physical and mental in this case.
We discussed it, yes, and I talked about the child protection law, and I offered to send you a protection manual. We did talk about definitions of act.
Okay, and I did read that, and I did in that it does specifically say everything that we have talked about. It specifically talks about physical and mental.
Ms. Farr, you're supposed to be asking questions.
Sorry, I keep getting sidetracked from that. Okay, Mrs. Plum, do you remember when we were talking and I was expressing to you that my main goal was to just keep my kids safe from someone that I felt had the potential to click and to basically just snap, and that I was afraid, based on what they had been through so far, that this was going to happen and that nobody was listening to me. Mrs.
Is that,
Okay.
is that a question? Yes, I recall that conversation.
Mrs. Plum, do you know who Gabriel Fernandez is?
Who?
Gabriel Fernandez.
Not off of my memory, no.
Okay. I don't, if you don't know who he is, then I guess there's no reason to going into this questioning that I'm about to ask you. But Mrs. Plum, today I'm asking you to please answer the questions truthfully and to the best of your ability. Do you feel, Mrs. Plum, that I have any legitimate reason to worry about my children with Mr. Cook?
Ms. Farr, I have a difficult time answering that because your perception of your own fear is different than my personal opinion or professional opinion. From the information that I gathered from this investigation, outside of your personal perception of what you think might happen, CPS cannot, that's not our role. We cannot stay involved for what may happen. We cannot.
Okay, so
30 days, and I assessed the situation for 30 days. In my opinion, the girls had not seen Carl in 5 to 6 months. We were discussing their emotional concerns. I talked to Carl, discussed a safety plan, and I did not have enough information to open my investigation. No.
Okay, so you don't remember saying that you needed to talk to your supervisor to determine how the case was going to be opened, whether it would be physical or mental.
Yes, I remember talking about that because we have to talk to our supervisor. It was not an opening for physical. There was not enough criteria to meet that definition. I cannot change the investigation to mental injury. I am not a licensed. We talked about this. I cannot determine mental injury. That is the purpose of making the referral to a healing place.
Okay. Do you remember Isabel explaining to you in tears while she was crying, Ashley? Do you remember her saying to you, "We need help. We need help, Ashley. Please help me and my sister"? Do you remember her crying and begging you for help? I want an honest answer, Ashley. Do you remember her saying that to you and crying and begging for your help?
Ms. Farr, she already answered the question.
Okay.
Turn down the matrix.
I'm just saying, I'm very frustrated because this has been a very long road for me.
Ms. Farr, this is your time to ask questions. I think I've heard enough. I'm going to mute you now. Mr. Cook, do you have any questions for Ms. Plum?
Just one real quickly, Your Honor. Hello, Ashley. I was curious if you remember the video that I made when for the first time that you talked to me when Jen made the false police report, and then I had to counter her police report with the video and me making making a report on her regardless.
Yes, I do recall on the situation you're referencing in 2018 for a separate investigation that you did have a video from that situation.
And do you recall that what she stated was completely the opposite of what you've seen on that video?
From that investigation in 2018, I recall each party said a different situation on what happened. Basically, he said, she said situation. The video, I do recall that there was no footage of the actual incident. From my recollection of remembering that case, that it was like the ground, it was showing like the ground or the air, or it was no like actual incident of what happened.
Well, the video itself, it showed, I mean, the whole time me talking to her and
well, talking, yes, the verbal, but
and it also basically shows I didn't get anywhere close to her. I did not touch her like she stated. She said I put her against something on the porch and she got a big bruise. I never even came close to her, did I?
That case was a denial. There was no evidence that anybody there was no evidence to determine who or what happened during that incident.
All right, no further questions, Your Honor.
Okay, Ms. Plum, thank you. I appreciate your testimony here today. You are free to leave.
Thank you.
Okay, so Ms. Spar, I told you that I would give you a chance to testify if you wish concerning anything that was raised in Ms. Plum's testimony. So this is a continuation of the hearing that we began a few weeks ago. You were placed under oath then. Do you understand that you are still under oath? All right. You're muted, so you got to unmute.
Sorry. Yes, Your Honor. I remember, and I am telling 100% the truth.
All right. So right now I'm going to give you a chance to offer any testimony that bears directly on anything that Ms. Plum was questioned about. So
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay. So as far as Mrs. Plum's testimony, she could not recall exactly what. There was only two situations that she had wrote down that she could actually refer to, and that was she said that when Chloe gave a response to her, that it came from me. And there was one situation that had happened earlier that day when I was on the phone, and Chloe heard two things, and I explained to Mrs. Plum. I was trying to get her to say what I had said, and she could not remember what I had said about what had happened as far as the dog being buried into the snowbank, and me and Isabel finding the dog in the snowbank. And then the second one was about me being thrown the steps pregnant, and I had a after being thrown down from the steps. Those two situations, I had been talking to someone on the phone, and I did not realize that Chloe was hiding around the corner. That had happened earlier that day. So Chloe was responding to what she had heard earlier. So when I explained to Mrs. Plum the situation, and I had told her that I sat down and talked with Chloe, this was quite a bit of very pronounced part of our conversation, that I explained to Chloe that when I'm having a personal conversation, that it's not okay for her to listen. I explained to her what eavesdropping meant, and that there were certain things that I didn't want Chloe to hear because I didn't want to influence her. But she could not remember any of the things that Chloe had actually said to her in Chloe's interview with her. She didn't recall any of the things that Chloe had said to her other than the pulling of the toes and twisting of the
So,
arms.
Ms. Farr, what you're doing is making argument to me
But
about her testimony. I don't want to hear that now. All I want to hear, if you have specific information that you can testify to, not arguments, information that was prompted by something that Ms. Plum said, you can address that now. I don't want to hear any more arguments.
okay, I'm afraid I don't understand the question. Let me just see if I got the question right. Based on what Ashley has said, I can question what she has said.
If there was anything that she testified to that you disagree with or dispute or
Okay.
want to clarify,
I
you can testify to that. What I don't want to hear is you making arguments about whether or not I should believe Ms. Plum.
Okay. Well, okay. So as far as her testimony goes, if I understand correctly, the things that I don't agree with that she said, is that what you want me to say? The part that I don't agree with that she said?
Right, somebody's getting a phone call. Mr. Cook, I'm going to mute you. Ms. Plum, I don't know how I can be more clear. Ms. Plum gave some testimony. If there was anything in her testimony that you dispute, you can testify to what you remember. That's all. I don't want you arguing to me about why I shouldn't believe Ms. Plum.
Okay. There are some things that I dispute that she said.
Let me hear about it.
Okay. I dispute the testimony that Mrs. Plum gave to you about her recollection of the conversations that she had with Chloe and Isabel, as far as them being scared of Carl. I dispute that particular part of her testimony where I feel like that particular part of them being scared, she did not testify in an honest manner. I don't feel that she testified based on what she remembered. The last interview that we had with Mrs. Plum, nothing in that interview was brought up. Nothing. And so I don't feel like she took good enough notes. And as far as the reason that I keep good notes is because of the situation here that we're dealing with. As far as her testifying that she did not feel that there was a fear, when I asked her questions about, do you feel that this situation is abuse? Or do you feel that this situation, that my children are scared? I don't feel that she testified honestly or based on memory. I feel like Mrs. Plum has been, like everybody else, manipulated by Mr. Cook and how manipulating he is. So I feel like since she went to his house and spoke with him last, she is adopting what he said. And when I spoke with Mrs. Plum, I was extremely clear about everything that we said. I didn't bring up anything at all that had ever happened to me. And even in court, I didn't bring up anything that he has done to me. I only brought up the concerns that I had with Mrs. Plum as far as their safety. And as Mrs. Plum told us in our interview, she said to us, I cannot tell you to disobey a judge's order, but Isabel, and she said, I told Isabel without telling her to disobey the judge's order based on what she said, I feel it is in Isabel's best interest to not get back in the car with her father. She said, he's unpredictable. And based on what both girls had said to her, that she felt like he was and that he would trigger. This is what she told me based on what the girls had told her. So as far as her interview goes today, the same thing has happened today that has happened before when we have gone and talked to people. Are you there?
We've been here all along. Your image froze. It looks like you're having some trouble at your end.
Okay, but did you hear what I had said, or was it was frozen?
I heard all I need to hear, ma'am.
Oh, so would it be okay for me to? Would it be okay for me to continue with the other things that I disputed?
Briefly, ma'am.
Okay. Your Honor, I would just like to say today that I do feel like you are a fair person. And I would like to apologize to the court if you felt like I was using any theatrics whatsoever, that that I am only trying to do what's in the best interest.
I want you to address Ms. Plum's testimony only.
Okay.
If you don't have anything more to say about Ms. Plum's testimony, then I'm going to give Mr. Cook a chance.
Okay. I also would like to say that I feel that in her testimony today, that she could not recall a lot of the dangers and a lot of the things that I asked her specific questions on. I have
You're making arguments as to why I shouldn't believe her.
12 questions that I had asked her. And
here's what I'm going to do.
I don't feel like she remembered.
You need to listen to me. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you one more chance to offer rebuttal to something that Ms. Plum said. The next time you veer off course, I'm going to conclude you don't have anything more to offer, and then I'm going to give Mr. Cook a chance.
Okay. I do not feel that Mrs. Plum, honestly and from memory, based on what we talked about today, spoke in honesty or by memory of what was talked about when she came here and she talked to us. I feel like Mrs. Plum did not take into consideration today that based on her testimony, that she said today what she said to us. I don't feel like her testimony was what she said to me.
All right, Ms. Farr, that's enough. Mr. Cook, is there any testimony that you would like to offer that was raised by anything that Ms. Plum had to say?
No, I just would like to use this as a reference on how she's always right. Everybody else is lying. It's all everybody else's fault. That's testimony to how she actually always is on every single issue. She knows it all. Everybody else is wrong.
All right, and that's by way of argument. So I understand. So let me ask you, Mr. Cook, and again, you understand that you're still under oath from the last hearing?
Yes, Your Honor.
So the last incident that sort of spurred all of this on, it seemed quite clear that you did not want Isabel coming along for the visit, that you wanted to spend some time with Chloe that wasn't, and I don't remember if you used this word, but poisoned by Isabel's presence.
Correct. Just I didn't want the atmosphere tainted where she's in a bad mood and I got to deal with her being in a bad mood and when I'm trying to spend time with Chloe. Yes, I remember, remember that and agree.
It's very clear that for whatever reasons, legitimate or not, that Isabel is of a mindset that she does not want to see you and does not want to spend time with you. I think under those circumstances, forcing her to spend time with you is counterproductive.
I would agree.
The only way we're going to be able to get at that is if indeed she is involved and engaged in counseling with a counselor who, outside of mom's influence, can have frank conversations with her and overcome this fear that she has.
100%, I agree.
This counselor, normally what I like to do is leave it up to the counselor. Counselor establishes a relationship with the child, and then when the counselor thinks it's ready, introduce the parents to one or more sessions to try to address what's causing this and hopefully repair so that you can have somewhat of a normal relationship with your daughter.
I agree.
Your feeling at the present is you really want to see Chloe, but you don't want to force Isabel to participate in visits until she's willing to do that on her own.
Willing to do that, and when I agree that it's time, I'm not going to be forced into Jen saying, you have to take her too because the court says so and blah, blah. No, I'm the dad and we're having issues right now. So no, until I state, and if you want the counselor to agree to whatever, that's fine. But I'm not going to be forced into anything. And at this juncture, I think it, like you said, I agree that it would be detrimental to force Isabel to come right now. Yes.
Good morning. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. I've got another matter that I've got to take up. What I'm going to do is put you guys in the waiting room. And then when I finish with this other matter, I will bring you back in. I don't think it's going to take a real long time, so just stay close.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay, we are back on in Spar versus Cook. I'll give Ms. Spar a moment to get back in the room. So I'm going to give you both opportunities for argument, but before I do that, Ms. Spar, my understanding is your desire here is that I suspend parenting time completely for Mr. Cook. Is that what you're looking for?
I want supervised visitations, and based on what Chloe wants, Chloe doesn't want to ever see Carl again. But I know that that's not going to happen today. But if she does see him, I want it to be a supervised visitation with someone from an organization outside of his family.
And how do you feel about Chloe attending parenting time on her own as opposed to with her sister tagging along?
She will never go with Carl by herself without Isabel again. I know that. She will not get back into the car with him. And neither one of the girls, I can tell you right now.
All right. Ma'am, I was just I
Yeah,
don't want to hear your argument yet. I will do that briefly. I just wanted to
okay,
make sure what your objective was. Okay,
okay.
so since the impetus for this is Mr. Cook's parenting time objections, he gets the first word. So, Mr. Cook, I want to give you a chance to make argument for what it is you would like the court to do. In the meantime, I'm going to mute Ms. Spar. We'll let her back in when it's time. Go ahead, Mr. Cook.
All right. Well, number one, I would like to say this whole ordeal with the I'm such a bad dad and how CPS has been involved in all this was clearly, and I say that again, clearly only because Miss Spar kept my children from me after you just gave me 8 weekends in a row. I haven't had them for it's going on about 9 months now. Obviously, if there was something that I've done or something how I've been acting, it would be when I'm actually around the kids. I haven't been around the kids. Therefore, this whole thing is just her ploy. I'm manipulating the system to where she's not the one in focus, to where it's turned around. Now everybody's in the court is focused on me when this had nothing to do with me. This is all this has to do with is her keeping my kids from me, to where she's twisted the whole situation to where now everybody's looking at me like I'm trying to get my parenting time back when I haven't had parenting time at all. So my argument there is just I want to see my kids. I love my kids, but obviously Isabel, we're gonna have to work on some things. But as far as Chloe's concerned, I want to see her. I want to have her here. I want my week of Christmas. I didn't get any Christmas. I haven't had nothing, as you know. I want, as far as this case goes, and after it's done and said, I also want my week with Chloe. I want my whole week with Chloe. As far as her theatrics, obviously you see she wants to act like she's crying. Her daughter acts like she's crying, and Isabel acts like she's crying. But if you look at the film, there are no tears. Anybody can go, Your Honor, I really need help. Anybody can do that. There's no tears. Therefore, they are not crying. It's all an act. Let's see here. Multiple things. She said that all of a sudden, the kids have been in counseling for 6 months. Last time we were in front of you, the kids were not in counseling. She said she's going to be taking them to the lady that she stated. I want access to all the girls' school and medical records. I'm their father. I want to be able to access. Look, she's shaking her head now. No, I want access to medical records and the schooling. She don't get to exclude me from everything. Let's see here. Oh, I don't have her phone number. She got a new phone, or she got disconnected, or whatever it is. I haven't had the phone. I can't contact the girls. I can't stop by because she wants to call the cops on me every time I stop by. So I need her phone number so I can contact Chloe. And when I call, I don't want to hear that she's not around or she can't talk, or like Isabel, like last times when I actually did have a phone and I'd ask for Isabel after I'm done talking to Chloe. Isabel's always busy. She's in the shower. She can't talk. I don't want to hear that from Chloe. I call to talk to Chloe, which I should be able to do. I want to be able to talk to Chloe. And like I said, I don't have her phone number. I don't know if she has a phone. She's got to have a phone, but she obviously doesn't want me to have her number. I sent her an email just about a week or two ago and asked for her phone number. I said, I want the number so I can talk to my girls. She turns it around like I got some ploy or some mission or some reason why I'd want to talk to my girls other than I'm the dad. I love them. I want to talk to my girls. So she won't give me her phone number. Originally, when Isabel was in counseling, she went for a long period of time for counseling. And then all of a sudden, Jen started not liking the counselor. All of a sudden, she didn't like that counselor at all, and she's bad. And all of a sudden, stopped going to her. I don't know why. I never got to talk to the counselor myself. There's something there, and she really need to be called and asked. Like, obviously, I think she got to the point where she understood everything Isabel was saying at the beginning was coming from Jen, but after going month after month after month, she was finally getting to Isabel, who Isabel was, and trying to break her down a little bit. And all of a sudden, then Jen was done with that counselor. She don't want nothing to do with her. She's bad. So I never got to hear anything that counselor said. I don't sit there and swear at them and get in their face. I have no reason to. Like I said, all I have to do is say, what did I say? And that's it. And they do what they're told. Like I said, they're good kids, besides how they've been manipulated. Let's see here. Well, just everybody's against her. Nobody knows anything. She's right on everything. Nobody's helping her. That's all how she feels and how she's looking at things when there's no issue there. And once again, I want my week of Christmas. I've never had it before. I want my week of Christmas. And she's gonna completely lose her mind just because, heaven forbid, the dad's 10 minutes away and has his daughter. I mean, that's not an outlandish request. All this time, 9 months that I haven't had them, I want that to go back on my rearages. I have rearages. I want this 9 months taken off because I have not had them. And I paid the full amount, and I've been paying part of the amount through unemployment. I'm on unemployment because this COVID thing. And I want, like I said, in the beginning, she was getting her full amount, which is almost $1,000 a month, and I don't get to see my kids. I want that taken off of rearages. I have a lot of rearages, so it shouldn't be a big deal to take this 9 months off the rearages when I haven't had my kids. So, having said that, I believe that's basically what I want to say. Also, did you notice when last time we were in court and you had Chloe sitting you wanted her in a room where nobody could hear what you were saying? You recall that, where she was put in a room by herself, Your Honor?
Yes.
Okay. Well, did you also notice when you told her that she was to be put in a room by herself, she went over and opened the window in front of you? And then you told Chloe that, Chloe, that window's open a little bit. Why don't you close that? And Chloe smirked a little bit because she knew her mom got caught. She was trying to be sneaky, put her in a room where supposedly nobody can hear when there's a window directly behind. So she tried to open it in front of you, which I thought was really stupid because she put her in that room, and then on camera you can see her opening the window. Then you have to have Chloe close the window. Not to mention the room that she was in, there's that's directly next to the entry of the house. So even though it looks like she's in a room by herself, I guarantee that door was open, and she's right by the hall, either her or her daughter. Either way, it was very easy to hear every question you asked her. Not to mention, she tried to keep the window open in front of you. I mean, if you look back at it, if you didn't notice it, she tried to keep the window open to go against what you said, a room by herself where no one can hear, and she, in front of you, opened the window. So having said that, that's basically the gist of what I needed to say.
So, Mr. Cook, I will give you one last chance after I've heard from Ms. Spar. So right now I'm going to mute you so you don't interrupt her.
Okay, one last thing, just to reiterate what I said last time, what I wanted. You asked me this time what I wanted. I also, just to reiterate, I want our order to go back to what the front of the court handbook states. I want I want all my holidays. I want all the summers. I want everything in that book that every other parent gets. I want it too, because I haven't had any holidays, any consideration for anything. All that matters is I pay my bill, and if not, I got a warrant out for me. That's all that front of the court has basically done for me.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Farr, this is your opportunity to make argument based upon the testimony that's been presented as to what you think I should do regarding your daughter's parenting time with their father.
Okay. So I just wanted to let you know that both girls are available here. They would both like to talk to you again, and that if not, Isabel wrote down some things that she does want me to say if she is not able to talk again. But the first thing I'd like to start with is, Your Honor, I am not a liar. Everything that I have said here today is true. I have not exaggerated anything whatsoever. I have, to the best of my ability, I have tried to keep these girls safe from Mr. Cook. He is very manipulating and very convincing, I might add. And that when we were in court last time, based on his testimony, from as much as the girls could see, Chloe or Isabel had to listen basically so that she could answer you. And the first thing she said to me is, "I cannot believe, Mom, how convincing he is when lying to the judge. And now I've seen what you've gone through all these years trying to protect me because he seems as if he's done nothing." So as far as his testimony goes, I beg you, Your Honor, to please take into consideration Chloe and Isabel's testimony. I beg you, Your Honor, to please keep my children safe from harm. I am telling you that my children are not safe in Carl's care. There have been a lot of things we haven't been able to say. There's been a lot of things the kids haven't been able to tell you. And as far as him saying that I twisted anything, I'm an honest person. I have twisted nothing to my advantage. I get no advantage out of this. The only advantage I get is the peace of mind that you are going to be fair with the girls and keep them safe. I've not twisted anything I've said. And Your Honor, as far as him telling me that he has not been able to contact Chloe, I've never called the cops on Mr. Cook. The one person that did call the cops on him was Isabel's counselor, Sarah. She admitted to me that she felt it was important to call the police based on what Isabel had told her in counseling, that she felt that he was, and that's why she called the cops and sent them to my house to get a police report. So that's that, or she called protective services and a police report was filed. So that's as far as that particular situation went. That was not me that called the police. That was Isabel's counselor at the time. And Isabel was not in trauma therapy when we testified last time. She was not going to trauma therapy. She is seeing a counselor, but she's not seeing a trauma therapist, which is what Ashley Plum signed the children up for, is trauma therapy. So if they had not been facing trauma, she would not have recommended or paid for trauma therapy. Protective Services had me sign a form stating that they were going to pay for the children to have trauma therapy based on their experiences with their father and what they had been through. So if that was not a reason, then they wouldn't be going to start trauma therapy. I have called Ashley Plum on 2 occasions to make sure that everything was following through. I've called Shannon Lauder's office. I have everything all set up. I was not contacted by them, so I did contact them again. So hopefully that will start soon. I have videos, Your Honor, that I can show you here today. Carl was present in these videos, so he knows what was there, and I did send these videos to his phone. And then about the child support, that has nothing to do with today's case, but Your Honor, he was asking you to reimburse child support during the time that he has not had the children. And I don't know if he knows what the rules and regulations are, but child support is not based on whether or not you see your children. Child support is based on whether or not it's based on, it provides care for these children that are his. And I might also add that I've sent in several receipts to Carl. He's supposed to pay 79% of medical care for Isabel, and $265 a month has to go to Isabel's braces because she was premature and she has a deformed mouth, and I never have gotten a dime of that. So as far as, and he was stating that that unemployment was paying me $1,000 a month, and that is incorrect. I was getting $300 twice a month, and that was coming from unemployment for Carl. And that, so it wasn't anything he paid; it was what the state has paid as far as that goes. And it wasn't $1,000; it was $300 every 2 weeks, which I'm grateful to get because he hadn't paid since December, and this started the end of April. So I went all that time period. Now I'm only getting $149 every 2 weeks, and he says that he's not working and he's claiming unemployment, but I don't believe that's the case because he did tell Chloe several times when he was here at the window that he had just gotten off of work. So if he had just gotten off of work and you were claiming child support or claiming unemployment, then that doesn't match up. I've never called the cops on him. And where has he been for 3 months? He said that he doesn't have my phone number, and that's on purpose. I am not going to give him my phone number. I have sent Mr. Cook several options on how to contact Chloe and Isabel. I have given him all of Chloe's contact information. I have proof that I have done that on her phone, on her device, the information I sent to him. And I also gave him several forms of free contact. They can FaceTime each other. He can use his mom's phone to call me because I have an iPhone. I still use my iPhone. I can still use it with the same contact information. I just can't call out on it. He can still FaceTime me. So he has several options. He could call my mom and say, hey, could you have Jen bring the kids, or could you tell her I'd like to talk to the kids? But not one time in 3 months has he even tried to contact, until a week ago when we all got the information that we were going to be going back to court. He sent a message, and I sent a message back to him. Check your phone. Her information was sent to you, and these are the different ways in which you can call Chloe's device for free. But I did mention to him she does not want to even see him or talk to him. And this is from Chloe's own words. Like I said, they would both like to talk to you again. And as far as him saying that he does not get in their face and does not yell at them, that is a total lie. A total lie. Where is his mother today? Because his mother witnessed him an inch away from Isabel's face. His mother was so scared when he was yelling in Isabel's face that she was afraid for her own and tried to get into the car and leave. And Isabel told her, "You're not leaving us here." She never asked to stay there. She told Carl plain and simple to his face, "You are not taking Chloe by yourself." She's not an aggressive child. She's a well-behaved child. She would never lie. She would never make false accusations against anyone, Your Honor. Never. She is in real fear for Chloe's life. Chloe is in real fear of him. The things that he have done to these children, I don't care if Protective Services thinks those things are not under their category for verbal or physical abuse, but as far as my children are concerned, this is abuse on them. He has violated. And, as far as the person goes, Your Honor, I've mentioned before in court, narcissistic behavioral personality is a very situation. They try to say everything that they have done. They blame you for what they have done. This is a very a distinct characteristic of narcissistic behavioral disorder. Carl is extremely narcissistic, and coming along with being extremely narcissistic, they're very manipulating, and they are pathological liars. He is a pathological liar, but claims that I am one. I am a Christian. I love God with all my heart. I did have tears in my eyes. When Ashley left the first day that she was here, Your Honor, we talked to Ashley for 3 hours. 3 hours. And our eyes were so red after talking to her. She hugged us during COVID and said she was sorry for everything we had gone through and she was going to do her best to help us. Okay, and as far as Carl said that the child support, I forgot to say these things about his child support. Number one, you ordered him to go to anger management, and he never did. That was a court order that he disobeyed. He never took his anger management classes. And you put a warrant out, Mr. Cook, back in, I believe it was in February, and he was to pay a certain portion on that warrant in order for that warrant to be dropped. And Mr. Cook called the officer that was at the front of the court, and he talked him into dropping the warrant. When I called the friend of the court to find out why the warrant had been dropped, the police officer told me that Mr. Cook had called him and explained that they had started taking child support out of his income, and so that they dropped it. And I said, well, what about this, they gave him a certain amount of money that he had to pay to have that warrant dropped. I believe it was $3,800 that he had to pay to get that warrant dropped. And I asked him about that. And he said, well, when the warrant's dropped, that amount of money that he has to pay is also dropped. So why did that get dropped? Because from what I understand, there's only 3 ways to get rid of a warrant. You go before the judge, you go to jail, or you pay the warrant. So I don't know how that got slipped under the rug, but I'm begging you today to please, I beg you, please listen to me. Please listen to my children. Everything I've said to you today is honest. These things have happened to us, and I am in fear. And my mother has not been able to testify again today on the things that she has heard. And the things that she knows, and she would like to also do that today. But as far as my children are concerned, Your Honor, I ask that you please reach into your heart and please take the safety of the girls to heart. Please make a decision that is based on their safety and what they want. Please, I'm asking you, I'm begging you. Look at all of the information, please. And please allow them to talk to you in response to what has been said from what they could hear. As far as what Ashley had said in the beginning before they had to leave the room, please give them another chance. And Your Honor, Isabel would like to talk to you without her father listening because she's very intimidated when he's listening. She would like to talk to you in private where he cannot hear you. So please allow her to do that. And I beg you, please be fair to the children today. I'm not afraid of going to jail, Your Honor. If I have to do that to keep them safe, I will. But I can tell you that neither one of the children are going to get in the car with him again. They will not. So please look at Chloe's testimony. Please look at Isabel's testimony. Oh, and as far as the window being opened, there was a towel in that window over there. And when I pulled the towel out of the window did not get shut. And you can see that if you can see that far back. We could hear Chloe through the window, though. We could hear her even with the window closed. This room echoes, and we could hear what she was saying. She didn't know this, but we could hear what she was saying. So I beg you, please listen to the testimony that my mom has in reference to this and the last time we were in court. And I beg you, please get the last words from my children.
I'm done taking testimony, but I'm going to give Mr. Cook a chance to reply, and then I will tell you what I'm going to do. Go ahead, Mr. Cook.
All right, Your Honor. Number one, she's the true narcissist. She wants to call me a narcissist every time she ever talks to me or ever refers to me. She's the one who's lying and manipulative, and nothing's ever her fault. And anyways, I'm not going to go into that, but she's the true narcissist. I don't have her phone number. She acts like I don't have Chloe's phone number. I don't know. Chloe's got a phone now, or she just used her tablet. I don't know. But supposedly there's all these kinds of ways to contact her. I wanted Chloe to have, I set it up on my end, kids messenger. For some reason, Jen never would go for that. It's a simple app. I could have talked to her. Everything would have been fine. But no, she will never do that. Won't let her have kids messenger. I never called friend of the court to get any warrant dropped. I'm sure they don't even do that unless you pay the bill. Like she said, you gotta pay the bill or you're going to jail. Well, guess what? I didn't call anybody. They got enough money and they dropped the warrant.
Mr. Cook, let me stop you. Let me stop you for just a minute. This kids messenger.
Yeah.
I haven't heard of that. What is your understanding of what that is?
It's just another app off Google Play that it's just like Messenger, but it says Kids Messenger, and it's tailored around kids, and it has some kind of parental supervision with it too, where people can't just send messages to a kid unless the parent has an okayed that person type thing. You know, it's just a quick, easy little app, just like Messenger, no different, except it's tailored for kids and it's a little more protected for kids. Other than that, it's the same thing.
Is that something you load on your computer and
on your phone? Yeah, it's just a phone you can download off on your phone. I mean, it's an app you can download on your phone.
It can be a phone app, and it can also be a computer app, so that if the child doesn't have a phone, you can use your phone to message with the child.
I believe
on
so.
A computer.
I believe so, as long as you can download the app. It's just a basic app, Google app.
All right,
I haven't tried to put it on a computer, but I'm pretty sure you can put it on like a tablet or something, and she could. That way I could contact her. I haven't even been able to contact my daughters or even Chloe in the last probably at least last 4 months. I have no talking to them, nothing. I can't stop by because she'll call the cops. And then in her statement, she said she never called the cops. How many times has she told you that she called the cops? She's told you multiple times that she's called the cops. And now in her statement, I never called the cops on him. Yeah, right. She's told you multiple times she's called the cops on me. So that just once again, she don't even know when she's lying. She lies and lies and lies. I don't know if there was a question or if there's anything else that I was.
Anything else that you wanted to address?
One other thing, I do have a witness as well as if to speak on how Jen is, how she acts, what she does, how she keeps kids from me. She's my witness is also my friend that I bring that drives me over and has who I pick up the kids with. Now she thinks she can tell me that I can't have a girlfriend. I can't have the kids around her, around any girls. She is the ultimate supreme being, and she dictates if anybody can be around her. If she doesn't like somebody, my kids are not allowed around her. If it's another female, they are not allowed around another female at all for any reason. And I would like you to ask her that if she minds my kids being around any females, because she will not allow it. And when I go to pick up the girls next time, she's going to throw an issue about that too. So that's probably after you make your determination, she's just going to go right back against what you said, not listen to what you said, and state she doesn't have to follow what you said because there's a girl in my car. like she's done multiple times. So I would like to ask her, do you mind do you have a problem with his girlfriend being around? Because she thinks she can tell me I can't have a girlfriend and I can't be around because she can't have a significant other because of her faith, because she committed adultery. In her faith, she's not allowed to have anybody anymore if she wants to be in that religion. So that's basically it.
All right. Well, I've made clear to both of you that I'm not taking any more testimony. I've got enough information that I can make a ruling. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to mute both of you because I don't want you speaking out or interrupting me. So this has been a very, very troublesome case for the court. You folks have been back in front of me so many times. The conflict, the tension is incredible. I've tried to get some insight. It's very hard to know at what point which parent is telling the truth, which one is exaggerating the truth. So I've tried very hard to listen to you both carefully, to hear what you have to say, and to evaluate the facts that have been presented to me. So one of the things I did to try to cut through all the emotion that I hear whenever the two of you are in front of me was I appointed a lawyer guardian ad litem. I believe it was Mr. Hotchkiss. Give me just a moment to pull his report. Yes, Mr. Hotchkiss. And then because I was hearing such starkly differing versions of the most recent event, I adjourned the proceedings so that I could hear directly from the CPS investigator who was called upon to investigate this incident. And both Mr. Hotchkiss, whose judgment I value very highly, and Ms. Plum have concluded that Mr. Cook is not a danger to his children. That I've seen over and over again what I believe to be absolutely true. Mr. Cook dearly loves his children. If that were the case, he'd have given up a long time ago, given the many, many obstacles that Ms. Spar has thrown in the way over the years, trying to interfere with Mr. Cook having a reasonable parental relationship with his children. And frankly, what I'm seeing is direct parental alienation by Ms. Spar. She is instilling fear in her children. She is telling them things that they should never need to hear. She is instilling fear in them. And she's done damage as a result of that. Kids don't need to hear one parent trashing the other. And Mr. Cook, you're guilty of that. You're guilty of trashing their mother to them. She's guilty of trashing you to them. All it does is create harm. And it's been successful. Isabel has been as alienated as I've seen a child become, and Chloe's rapidly on the way to being that herself. I mean, it's just plainly wrong. So how do we fix it at this point? Clearly, these girls have been alienated against Mr. Cook. They believe that he's a danger to them, but they don't believe that based on truth. They believe that based upon all of the fear that their mother has instilled in them. I don't doubt that Mr. Cook loses his cool on occasion and raises his voice, but he's not a danger to either one of these children. He never has been. He never will be. The danger is what mom is doing. Ma'am, if you unmute your phone again, I am going to kick you out of this hearing. Do not do it. Is that clear? So how do we get off this point and get to some semblance of a reasonable parenting time schedule and a reasonable relationship for Mr. Cook with his children? What I want to do, the referral to the healing place to Dr. Shannon Louder, absolutely, I wanted it followed up on. I want counseling set up for both of the girls through Dr. Louder's office. The next thing we're going to do is I'm going to schedule, and Mr. Cook, you're not going to like this, but give it time. There's a goal in mind. I am going to order that a healing place supervise a couple of visits. I want them to see what I believe to be the case, that these girls have no reason to fear you other than what mom has put into their heads. And she's been hard at work doing that. Every chance she gets, she poisons these girls towards you, Mr. Cook, every time. So the first step we're going to do, I want there to be 2 supervised visits with each daughter separately. I do not want them together. They need to be separately. After those 2 visits, I want the parenting time supervisor at a healing place to give the court a report as to how those visits went. I also want the girls immediately enrolled in counseling through whoever it is Dr. Louder assigns from the healing place so that they can start that process. I want the person who's doing the therapy to involve both parents at a time and under such circumstances as the therapist sees fit. I'm going to let that be driven by the therapist. There is a cost associated with the parenting time visit. I'm ordering that the parents have to split that cost because there is blame on both sides for why we got to where we are. And I think that burden should be shared. After 2 visits, I want a report from the parenting time supervisor as to how those visits went. And that will guide my decision going forward. As soon as I have that report, and I want those visits to continue until such time as I issue a new order, but I want a report after 2 visits. It's going to take some time for that report to get to me. It's going to take some time for me to act upon that report. But my goal, Mr. Cook, is to get your girls both, and I realize it's going to be a lot harder task with Isabel than it is going to be with Chloe. I want to get them both to a point where they're willingly coming to visits. And one of the things I'm going to direct the therapist to address with both is to evaluate the extent to which there's been parental alienation in this case. Once I get through this, so that we're at a situation where there simply is no reasonable basis for any fear on the part of either one of these children, I anticipate going to a far more regular parenting time schedule. Part of the problem here is the extent to which these girls have been withheld from Mr. Cook. And while they're being withheld, they're being fed lies by their mother, exaggerations, just over the top, outright parental alienation. So I am going to get busy to write this order. As soon as you get the order, Ms. Spar, I expect you to act on it. The other thing I'm going to order immediately is Miss Spar, you are going to research and you're going to install either on your computer or on a phone this kids messenger app so that Mr. Cook has a way of talking to both of his daughters. That's going to be in my order. You will get all of this in a written opinion or a written order rather, and it will be coming out within the next couple of days as soon as I can get it out. I'm going to warn you, Ms. Spar, at the point at which I order whatever the parenting time is, whether it's a supervised visit, whether it's an unsupervised visit, each time the child doesn't go to that visit is going to cost you a day in jail. Each time the child doesn't go to a visit is going to cost you a day in jail. And I'm going to stand behind that. And make sure your girls know if they're telling you, no, I don't want to go, I don't want to go. Honey, if you don't go, mama's going to have to go to jail. You make sure they know that because it's going to happen. All right. That concludes our hearing. You'll be getting a written order.
So Mom Star Witness kind of fizzled out on her, and she didn't answer the questions the way Mom wanted her to, even though she spent an hour and a half, I don't know, at least, trying to convince this woman that she's got to answer it this way. And then she gave her the handbook. So, oh, good Lord, what's this woman, what's going to happen now that she's got a handbook that tells her everything? That was just wrong. She should never have given her the handbook. Let's see, what else did I want to say? Oh, and we found out that Mom, eavesdropped on the daughter's conversation with the judge, which she was not allowed to do, but she did it anyway, even though she was standing outside and she said, oh, well, you can hear everything from out there. Well, then why'd you stand out there? You knew the judge didn't want you to hear it. You could have gone and stood somewhere else, right? But no, she wanted to listen, even though the judge expressly said, I don't want you listening. She listened anyway. And she says she's not a liar. Yeah, right. Okay. And then when the CPS worker was interviewing the daughters and they didn't answer the way Mom wanted them to, Mom barged in the room. How did she even listen? How was she even listening? Did she put a baby monitor in there or something? I mean, these were private interviews, not to be listened to by Mom. And I don't know why. And then both of the daughters were in the room during this hearing, and Dad had to kick them out. But one of the daughters, probably the older one, stayed in the room. She definitely stayed in the room because Mom was looking at her continuously. Looking over, talking to her, shaking her head. You could tell the daughter was in the room. And then at the end, it just kind of devolved. And what do you want to bet? That Mom does not do what the judge has told her she must do. What do you want to bet? Well, you guys will have to wait for that one. So I'll let you guys wait for that. And thank you so much for watching. And I'll see you next time.